This is Louise. I'm 14 years old and I live in Pittsburgh.
This is Joshua and I am 7 years old.
This is Jeffrey. I'm 18 years old and live in Lawrenceville.
This is Felix. I'm 14 years old and I live in Allegheny Commons. And this is the Pittsburgh Podcast.
So glad you're with us for the Pittsburgh Podcast. We have got a really cool episode for you that might even get you thinking towards spring when we talk with former Pirates manager Clint Hurdle about his inspirational emails that he sends to thousands of people, and we go behind the scenes at PNC Park. I'm Kristine Sorensen. I anchor the news at KDKA-TV and am a Pittsburgh producer.
And I'm Melissa Rayworth, the editor of Pittsburgh.org. Clint talks about how to encourage young people with positive feedback, and I am excited to hear from the teenagers when we ask them what do they do to get positive encouragement in their lives.
And I'm Yu-Ling Cheng, Pittsburgh's director, and we're going to start with our hidden gem, a place in the Pittsburgh area you may not know about, but this one you've surely heard of, PNC Park. But what you may not know is you can get a special tour of this place.
Yes, I think there's so many families in Pittsburgh, especially if they have kids and they have joined the Buckaroo Club. They probably know about going to PNC Park during a game, but a lot of people may not realize that you can actually, as a family, do a behind-the-scenes tour. These happen during the season as well as in the off-season. During the season, they don't do them on days that they have day games. You could plan it, though, if there's a night game, that everybody goes during the day, does the tour, and then maybe goes get something to eat and comes back to the park. It's a lot of fun with kids to walk around. You're actually down on the field, you walk along the warning track, you go see the bullpen. If you've ever been curious about the luxury suites, you get to actually go in there, and you even get to visit the press box, and you can see what the view of the field really is for the guys who are calling the game.
I mean, it's known as one of the best parks in the world. I mean, we're so lucky to have it right here in Pittsburgh, but it always looks so different from down below, and thinking like, what would it be like to be a player here and see all these people watching?
I always love that they have little stories to tell about these places when you go into the locker room or something, and you're just like, oh, and this is where this happened.
No, seriously, they have wonderful stories. And when you're walking around sort of inside the stadium, you're walking down these big wide hallways that the players walk down every day. And I remember my boys, they were younger when we did it. They were so excited that they were walking in the same places that those players do every day. Like you said, Yu-Ling, you hear so many interesting things from the people who are hosting the tours. We got an entire speech from someone about how they get grass stains out of white baseball pants. And I remember, I think those of us who at the time had kids who were playing ball and had white baseball pants, we were kind of glad to hear those details.
Well, and I know they often offer free tours during RAD days as well, and sometimes during Remake Learning Days.
That's fantastic. It's just a fun way to see a part of Pittsburgh from, like you said, a totally different angle.
And we've got all the info on RAD Days and Remake Learning Days, where you can learn more about those PNC Park tours at Pittsburgh.org. So be sure to sign up for our free email newsletter so you know when the next tours are happening.
Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. You're listening to the Pittsburgh Podcast.
Baseball fans know Clint Hurdle for his years as a top major league player and a manager, including for the Colorado Rockies and the Pittsburgh Pirates. But the wisdom he shared with his players, he now shares with thousands of people in his inspirational emails. And he'll be sharing that wisdom with even more people in a book coming out soon called Hurdleisms, Wit and Wisdom from a Lifetime of Baseball. And we are so thrilled that Clint is joining us for the Pittsburgh Podcast.
Clint, we are so excited to ask you about so many things, including baseball. But first, we wanted you to tell our audience how you began sending out encouraging texts to a small group of friends about 15 years ago, and how that has grown to an email audience of several thousand people.
Well, that's a very good question. And it all went back to a conversation I was having at the time I was managing the Colorado Rockies with our team president, Kelly McGregor. Kelly turned out to be probably the second most influential man in my life outside of my father. One of his goals was to grow Clint Hurdle the man. He felt that I would become the best manager I could be if I focused on becoming the best man I could be. Servant, leader, friend. And through a series of discussions, he challenged me to start a bi-monthly leadership group where we would meet over the course of an hour. We'd have about 45 minutes of content maybe a topic, maybe a question. The last 15 minutes, everybody would chop it up and answer any questions they might have. I've taken notes throughout it. I would put a text together about points, bullet points, walkaways. And at the bottom of it, I would write, make a difference today, love Clint. Well, we did this for about 2 months in 2009, and 2 months later into the season, I was fired. And about 2 months later, over the July 4th holidays, I was with my family on a vacation. It was probably the first summer vacation I'd had in 35 years. And I got a call from one of our participants in the meetings, a leadership group. It was a female executive. And she asked me how I was doing. I was kind of caught off guard. I said, well, I'm doing well. I said, I'm kind of weird. I'm on vacation, summer, and I'm not at the ballpark. She goes, well, I can understand that. She goes, I'm not doing very well, though, myself. She goes, I really missed the leadership sessions. I missed the meetings. I missed the text with the recap and the bullet points. And Clint, by the way, at the bottom of it, you would write, make a difference today. Love, Clint. She goes, transparently, I don't think you're making a difference with me. And you definitely, I don't even know if you love me anymore.
Wow.
Harsh, raw, authentic. I used the word harsh. She didn't think it was that harsh. Raw and authentic phone call. So when I got off the phone, my wife Carla looked at me. She goes, what was that all about? You look shaken. I go, honey, I'm shaking for sure. And I shared it with her. And she goes, she just looked at me like only Carla can look at me and said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I said, well, let me take a walk. I just need to get my thoughts together. I took a walk and I came back. I said, I'm going to start sending the text messages. I'll shoot out a topic to those 12 people. I'll get some thoughts back, and then I'll frame something up for them. So the text messaging started probably the middle of July in 2009. The numbers grew. More people in the organization wanted it. They'd share with friends outside the organization. It just became a force multiplier. And it got so big, I had to stop doing the texts. I just couldn't put enough folders together. I wasn't IT savvy enough. So I went to email. And then I went to email folders, and again, not smart enough. And these emails that go out, they go out to over 8,000 people now. There's a devotional email that's daily, and then there's an encouragement leadership email that's daily. And I fire them out 6 days a week. I'm just like Chick-fil-A. Truett Cathay taught me we rest on Sunday. And that's where we stand right now. So it started off really small and unassuming, but if it weren't for that phone call from a very good friend of mine, still to this day, I don't know if we'd be where we are today.
Well, I'm grateful that she gave you that call, but I also am grateful that you responded the way you did. I look forward to the inspirational emails, the encouragement, and every now and then there's something you send out that's exactly what I needed to hear that day. And you and I don't know one another, but the fact that you make the effort and make the time for that is really powerful.
And I've experienced the exact same thing. There are days when I go, that's exactly what I needed to hear. So thank you, Clint, for continuing those. And, I think those emails are really a glimpse into the way you manage your players when you were with the Pirates. And I've seen how you lead by focusing on the positive, which is not something all coaches or leaders do. So why do you think that is an effective way to really help people and to be a leader?
After research, my own life experiences, whether it was disappointment, struggles, bad choices, the people you run with kind of shape your being. The things you read, the things you fill your day with shape your character. And if it's of negative content, you're going to become negative. If it's positive content, I think you have a better chance of becoming positive. Over the course of my managerial career, coaching career, playing career, I've been in and out of both, but I made a decision in 2009, actually before then when I started, that they were going to find enough challenges off the field. They were going to find enough criticism away from the conversations and the relationship I had with them that I needed to be something they could count on, rely upon, that they knew I was going to be, didn't want to be a North Star, but they knew what they were going to get when they squeezed Clint. They were going to get positive stuff. It may be challenging at times. I may be saying right now your behavior is not very enticing. Your behavior I'm not digging. However, I've seen you when you're good, man, and you're electric, and people gravitate to you. We could really use more of that. You make it personal. And I think they respected the fact that I would tell them the truth, sprinkled with love, and remind them sometimes tough love is still love.
And I think parents can really take some good advice from that because, so often we're aware of the things. We're worried that our kid, maybe they're not doing that well in school or there's behavior stuff that we're worried about. But if we only focus on the negative, I guess that's going to make it even harder for them to hear what we have to say. So I love the idea of a parent sitting down and saying, I don't love what I'm seeing right now, but I know you're capable of this wonderful thing. And like you said, getting specific about the positive. That's fantastic.
In a household right now, just through the holidays, my son Christian's home. Christian retired from baseball at the age of 4 and never looked back. I mean, that's dripping with irony and just flat out funny on so many different levels. Not by his choice, but just by his being. He absolutely neutered me as a sports father because the sports he chose were karate, tennis, and then crew. He rowed for 4 years. He loved rowing. By him choosing those 3 sports, I never got to overcoach my kid. I never got to double check down the coach that he had and second guess him. I didn't know enough about the sport other than to show up, be enthusiastic, be positive, and just root them all on. And it turned out a great teaching message for me because Christian didn't need a coach. He needed a father. Madison, our 22-year-old special needs daughter, there's days when she can get sidetracked and days can become hard. But when we talk to her, Carl and I, it's never about who she is. With Christian, it's never about who he is. We love them unconditionally. We've learned how to love unconditionally through Madison's challenges. It's about the behavior. Look, I love you. The behavior right now is twisting me around sideways, but we love you. And then we try and find ways to encourage and acknowledge the good stuff. Because when you can feed the good stuff, they have a chance of picking up on that and saying, okay, my parents like that. Let me do some more of that. Or we remind some other teachers or some of the other people in the neighborhood, if Maddie goes to dance class, what motivates Maddie? You know what? Find something good to encourage her about. Find something she did well. Psychologically, it's been proven. If we're going to berate or bring up a negative, you've almost got to bring up 4 positives just to get the scales back to even. Because negatives hit so hard on kids. They hit so hard on us. And sometimes when you say good, you go, oh, well, that's nice. You just take it and kind of let it roll off your back. But we need to embrace the small wins because life is going to share with us hard times, challenges, disappointments. So let's be that rudder or that sail of positivity in their life. When they know they come home, they're going to get the truth, but they're going to find a way, Dad or Mom, we're going to lift them up a little bit.
In one of our first podcast episodes, we interviewed Travis Snyder, who I know is someone you mentored at one point during his career as a Pirate. And he was talking about just what you were saying about sort of positive sports parenting, where what you're there for is to lift your kid up and just enjoy it with them. So it's interesting. Along with raising your own 2 children, you spent your managing career really mentoring a generation of young men. And some were really still in their teens if they came into baseball straight out of high school. What was that experience like? And what would you want to share with parents about helping young people pursue their dreams?
First of all, I never would have become the man I am today if not given another opportunity to manage, truthfully, by Bob Nutting, Frank Coonley, and Neil Huntington. I had been in Colorado and spent 14 years there as a manager and coach. 1 year in Texas as a hitting coach and then interviewed for the Pirates job. I was given a second chance. So first of all, I'm a big believer in second chances and sometimes third chances. When you speak to young men, yes, they need to be challenged, but they need to be encouraged and they need to be given a vision and a game plan. Look, here's what we're going to do and here's how we're going to do it. And remind them it's going to take all of us, not just Kutch, not just Russell Martin, not just AJ, not just Cole. It's going to take all of us to do this together. And let's really celebrate each other's successes along the way. Let's not just be wrapped up in ourselves individually, but let's find a way outside ourselves. We can celebrate all the successes that we have in this clubhouse.
Wow. And I can see how within a family, that same sort of positive energy and sort of getting your kid excited about the vision of where they're headed can help them if they're struggling with something at school or with friends or something. It kind of helps them look beyond the moment.
When we can help our children or our players truly find their why they play ball. Why does my son want to go to crew? Why is my son at the Culinary Institute of America right now to be a pastry chef? You find something they're passionate about. A lot of those kids in baseball, I think they were passionate about when they started and then it got hard and they had to find different things to get passionate about again to bring them back, to that stable ground. They loved the game. They weren't liking the results. Plug back into the things you love. Plug back into why you play. When we can find something we're passionate about, it's amazing how many different levels we can go to, how many more times we'll try, how many times we'll get back up after getting knocked down if we're passionate about it. Look how passionate the fan base of Pittsburgh is about all their sports.
Just hearing you, I can see your leadership skills coming out. How could you encourage young people in particular to develop leadership skills and really become the leader they want to be?
It just goes back to asking good questions. What do you want to do at school? Do you have a hobby? One of the things my wife came up with once Kristine got to high school, she said, you got to join a club. There's got to be something else you're going to do at school other than go to your classes. Well, that's how we found crew. But find something else they can participate in where they can build a little community. I think community is important. I think it's not just the home room atmosphere that you have in school. The first class you go to, everybody checks in and they disperse for the rest of the day. Maybe there's a sport they can plug into. Maybe there's an art, a craft, a society or something, drama club, ROTC, whatever it might be to get them in a smaller community. Because I think we do so much better when we're not just trying to be ourselves, by ourselves, but in a small group of people, it's easier to share, it's easier to listen, it's easier to combine, lock arms and do things. So my first encouragement would be to find a small group of people, find your posse, and then share what's important to you, share what you like.
So interesting. And I do think that idea of finding your community and also, like you said before, finding your why can help, especially if kids or adults are working at something that they really want to stick with. I think obviously success in baseball and in so many parts of life is fueled by dedication and effort and sticking with things when they're tough. How did you cultivate that kind of perseverance as a player? And how did you see young players cultivate that ability to keep at their goals even on tough days when you were managing?
There's times when you're a coach, and there's times when you need to be a couch and just set them down and listen to them. Sometimes a pat on the back is good. Sometimes a smack on the backside is also good. You got to know your personnel. It's just knowing your person. Some people need to be nudged. Some people need to be actually pushed and challenged. When you're doing it with love and you've established a bond of trust, there's usually nothing you can't share with them or ask them to do. But you've got to initiate and build that trust first. Let them know I care about them outside their skill set second. And then I'll wait for that coaching opportunity. And it's time for me to show up and be coached. And then when I show them that I can coach them up and I can help them be better, that's when the magic starts happening.
It totally makes sense. I love that.
I think for so many people, we are excited about the fact that you have your book coming out because, again, this is all about sharing experiences and sharing wisdom. So tell us just a bit about the book. What made you excited to do it?
It's been one of the greatest things I've ever done, hardest things I've ever done, most challenging things I've ever done, but there's so much value that's come out on the other side. Now, it was therapeutic. It was raw and authentic. I share about my alcoholism, 26 years sober, 25 years married to Carla after 2 failed marriages. Now, if you do the man math, it's pretty simple, isn't it? What was in the way? Him. I was in the way. So the benefits that are come from that, I'm very vulnerable, which I think is a strength. It's very authentic. And the hurdleisms are phrases that have come to me over the years, whether it was Denver, Pittsburgh, before, but have accumulated traction, and they were used a lot in my time in Pittsburgh, and I usually tie a life lesson to it and a professional lesson to them.
I love what you said about vulnerability and still learning. I think one of the things parents really can benefit from is realizing that rather than having to sort of seem to our kids like we have it all figured out and we're completely on top of everything, it's so valuable to let them know as they're growing up that we're still figuring stuff out too.
Well, your kids might not listen to you, Melissa and Chris, as you all know, but they watch you. That little confrontation you had with your husband or your significant other that you didn't think was a big deal, your kids may see it completely different. Mom and dad could have been arguing, or dad made a mistake and won't own it, or mom did this and she won't own it, but they tell us to own it. The things we're trying to teach them, are we backing up? Are our actions matching our words? And I've shared with my kids all the time, when my actions don't match my words, please stop me. And, I might need the pat on the back. I might need the smack on the backside every now and then from my wife or one of my kids just to get my attention to say, but that's not right. That's not what we preach here. It's not how we do things here. There's no stronger statement made.
I really enjoyed listening to that interview with Clint, and I thought he had so much good things to share. And I really do believe, if you surround yourself with positive people, you will be more positive. And I find sometimes when I start to get down on myself, I'm like, I'm going to call that one friend who I know is always going to have a positive viewpoint, and I will start to be better about this.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think his idea of how much we can all do for one another is really big. I mean, the fact that he plays that role in the lives of so many people, he is the caring friend who says, I'm thinking of you and I'm here. It reminds all the rest of us that we have that power. I think most of us will never end up sending emails to thousands of people every day, but to know that you could start something with friends of yours, that you just message a few people each morning and say, I'm just thinking of you guys. Here's a positive thought for the day. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, there were so many nuggets that stuck with me from that. But the one that really stuck was talking about his son, that he didn't need a coach, he needed a father. And it's always my instinct after a soccer game to want to point out, oh, maybe you could do this better. I'm not a soccer coach. I don't know. My kids need a mom, not a coach. And I was like, wow, it's so simple, but so true.
It is. I had a friend tell me once after a soccer game, they don't want to hear more soccer. Sometimes you just need to pass a bag of M&Ms back there and just let them enjoy themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're listening to the Kidsburg podcast.
Pittsburgh is Kidsburg.
Well, Clint Hurdle had such great wisdom about how to get the best out of his players and his parents. We all want to help bring out the best in our kids. So we wanted to know from teenagers, who is a person in your life who you get positive encouragement from? And how do they give you this encouragement?
Somebody in my life that I get positive encouragement from is one of my really close friends, and they just make me feel really good about myself. They would just be really excited for me.
Somebody in my life that I get positive encouragement from is my older brother. I don't always agree with him. He's weird sometimes, but if he wasn't as my older brother, I don't think I would be as calm as I am today.
I am in the Big Brother, Big Sister program, and somebody who gives me positive encouragement is my big Kaylin. She's amazing, and she has treated me extremely well. She encourages me to do nice things, and she's just a really good role model.
I've been connecting with my dad a lot more, to the point where it's we can have these really deep conversations. He drives me to school every day, so I've been able to connect with him. I never thought I would value that so much, but I really do.
Always insightful to hear what teenagers have to say. And be sure to check out kidsburg.org, where we also have teens writing stories from their perspective.
And you can see those stories as well as resources and events to help all parents give their kids the best opportunity to thrive at kidsburg.org.
This is Lamel. I'm in the 8th grade, and this is the Kidsburg podcast.
Don't miss our next episode when we talk with Jess Elefante, co-founder of MAMA, Mothers Against Media Addiction, about how all of us can get beyond brain fog.
And we take you to a hidden gem, the Remake Learning Days Festival, a hands-on learning festival where families learn together and kids are having fun doing it. Plus, we ask teens what they think the phone rules should be at school, all on the Kidsburg podcast.